Caleb Williams, the rookie quarterback for the Chicago Bears, shines brightly while the defense makes his case to be a top five group in the National Football League with a win at Buffalo last week. In baseball, the Cubs sweep away the White Sox. While the White Sox are making more news off the field, we'll explain. In the Olympics, both the men's and the women's teams both bringing home the gold, but the men's relay team, Lakina has some words for them. Also, too, we'll have a major Chicago sports personality moving on to bigger and better things and time permitting, a special edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as the Monday edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow Shirley on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, again, the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Warp Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Warp Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools to be a little bit boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in living color. Not now, but right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, your PC, or your Android, just head up to Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
It will be providing you with some of the best, only the best here on Second City Sports this second Monday in June. Of course, we'll recap the rest of the weekend in the Olympics. Of course, the U.S. finished strong. Both the men's and women's basketball teams got a scare over the weekend. We'll talk about that. And monster ratings for both. So for the Olympics as a whole. So we'll get to that as well. Where will the Olympics would go into next? Also, like Tim said in the teaser, one of our friends of the show and a top Chicago sports personality says he's going to be saying bye-bye. And also, too, Old School TV Monday. And, of course, the college football's preseason top 25 was just posted about an hour ago. We'll give our very overreactive synopsis of that. Speaking of overreaction synopsis, let's go to the week one of the preseason. Of course, the Bears and the Bills. On Saturday, the Bears with a 33-6 win over Buffalo up in upstate New York. Caleb Williams was 4 for 7, 95 yards. Austin Reed threw a nice pass as well. Tyson Bagent. Really, the big story here was the defense, and granted, let's okay. Well, we'll get to some of the standouts in a second because there were definitely some standouts. But yes, they're 2-0 in the preseason. The Bears are, but Kyle Brandt, I'm sorry. Look, some of us are not gonna go crazy, and I'd warn folks about this. We're not gonna go crazy over 2 preseason games. Like, have they looked good? Yes, but let's remember Buffalo is not putting out their top guys right now. Now, I will say some guys did okay. I mean, look, DeAndre Swift had a great showing both running and receiving. Some of the other Tyler Scott had a nice showing as well. Austin Booker, had a great showing defensively. Amon, I can't say the guy's last name, but the rookie, rookie from Penn State, had a nice showing as well. So yeah, there were some standouts. Caleb looked good too. Yes, he had that sweet pass to Swift, but I'm not going to make any analysis from, just yet. I mean, I know everyone wants to get excited, and that's fine, but don't get on other folks. Yes, I don't care if that is Caleb talking or calling me, but I've said this. Let's slow down on all the hype and stuff, at least for now.
Yes, this was preseason game number 2 for the Chicago Bears, and were you encouraged if you were a Bears fan? Yes, Caleb Williams did look good enough in his preseason debut, but let's remember, folks, this was his pro debut, and throughout the preseason, and with all the 32 teams, they're not going to show you too much because they don't want to give the game plan away from when the season starts. But with that being said, we saw small increments of new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron's offense. And we saw Caleb Williams roll out the pocket. When he rolls out the pocket, he usually makes good decisions. He did the couple of times, as you mentioned, the one pass to DJ Moore, which everybody on Bears Twitter got excited about. I was more excited about the catch that Cole Kmet made when Caleb Williams came out the pocket. That was a most impressive catch by Kmet on that play right there in that second drive of the game. But Caleb looked solid in his pro debut. You're not going to see too much from him. It's only basic plays. You just looking at small increments, like I said, of this Bears offense. Now, Khalil Herbert looked great. I know he played a little bit last week in the preseason opener against Houston, but he had more carries last Saturday, and he looked good. I think his spot may be secure on this team with Roschon Johnson now in his second year. His roster spot may be in flux. We'll see about that. Now, as far as Velus Jones, we talked about it all last year. Lakina, head coach Matt Eberflus has said this is his last chance to make an impression on us, whether he wants to make the team or not. He had that muff kick on that kickoff return late in the game, but Coach Eberflus put him in the backfield late in that fourth quarter. I know it was all against backups, but I don't mind seeing Velus Jones on a couple plays here and there in the backfield. I think that's where it best suits him.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what he usually did. That's what he did a lot in Tennessee. He did a lot of receiving and running back. So a little surprised they never really used that on him. Now, I will say this: Micah Baskerville, who's a free agent signing, he looked really good. He made some big stops. Had an interception late, so that might have helped him get a spot on the team as well. But this, like I said, these preseason games. Remember, the Bears have to play an extra one because, of course, they played the Hall of Fame game last week. A lot of these guys are going to be wanting to get in the squad. So the Micah Baskervilles and those types of guys. I mean, this is really what these kind of games are for. And look, do the Bears look good? Yes, and they look decent. But like I said, I'm not gonna go ahead here because you saw how Bears Twitter, how they are said. They get all excited, say, "Oh, we're going to the Super Bowl." We're going like, okay, guys, stop. Look, I know Kyle Brandt. I know what he said. Hey, look, don't yell at folks who want to get excited. Well, I would also counter that by saying, look, don't call people haters because they don't want to get too excited just yet. I mean, look, I think that Bears have and Bears fans have suffered a long time, but let's remember, these are all even if they end up going, undefeated or 3-1 or whatever in the preseason, that's happened before, and we all saw what happened. So let's. Look, there were some great stand-up individual performances, but yeah, I mean, let's temper all that just for now.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakina here with you as we recap the Chicago Bears 33-6 win over the Buffalo Bills in Western New York last Saturday afternoon. I want to focus in more on the defense. Like you said, they were the main story. 8 sacks total, 9 tackles for losses. And you mentioned Booker. He had a great game. Yeah, he may be in that rotation of being that opposite defensive end, opposite of Montez Sweat when the regular season starts. And so he had a great performance. Also, too, I like Daniel Hardy, number 92. He had a great game as well. And also, too, Khalid Kareem, who wears number 52. I remember I was telling you about him last week. in that Hall of Fame game against Houston. I thought he pressured the quarterback well, but he just couldn't get to those quarterbacks. He did the same thing on Saturday, and he created pressure, and that's what I like from this kid. So watch out for him. I think he could be a second or third stringer on this team, and also too, Jalen Jones, number 21. He's a third string defensive back. I know Jalen Johnson did play. He has a new number along with new money. Jalen Johnson will be wearing jersey number 1 this year. But Jalen Jones, number 21, I know that Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, both those guys didn't play. But Jalen Jones, number 21, I thought made a great impression in that secondary. He had a couple passes deflected, and I thought he did an outstanding job.
Yeah, he really did, and like you said, but look, a lot of those young defenders. I mean, remember the Bears scored like 20 points before. Again, those were all against four strings or guys off the street, for Buffalo. But I mean, look. I mean, the Bears got a nice little showing there. Look, a lot of these guys are trying to get on the squad. So I would say that look, I think it'll be interesting to see what in Hard Knocks, especially how which guys said. I mean, I'm sure basketball is going to get a lot of attention. I know that Beja will probably get more attention as well.
Also, Booker too.
Yeah, Book will probably get some attention too. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, especially when this week's edition comes out tomorrow. This is going to be like how much they do show and such. And the Bears. We all know the Bears will have a little say on the editing, so we'll see. Who gets that big that standout treatment.
And we'll talk about this more on Friday as they take on the Cincinnati Bengals next Saturday at Soldier Field at high noon. I know that both those teams will have a jointed practice. I believe, this Thursday, and we'll give you the bells and whistles from that on our next show on Friday. But I wonder how many plays will Caleb and his new offense will display in that. This will be the Bears' third preseason game when they take on the Bengals this upcoming weekend. Will that first team offense play the entire first half? Will we see Caleb play into the third quarter? Because if that's the case, you're not going to see any of those starters in the following week in their preseason finale. But just a couple of things before we had to go to for the bottom of the hour break. I was very impressed by the offensive line. I know Nate Davis didn't play. I know they had Darnell Wright had their one silly penalty, but the one thing that I was really impressed, Lakina, not just the offensive line, but the first unit, Bears offensive unit as a whole. Remember, we've been talking about this for years. This is not just a Bears thing, but it's a league-wide thing. When the plays do not come in, how many teams, including the Bears we've seen throughout the years, waste a timeout? I did not see that with this Bears team on Saturday. Paying attention to detail is very key and one of many components that you need to have a successful team. And I paid attention to that closely. I know they had a couple of infractions later on in the game when the backups came in, but with their first unit offense, the players were coming in right away, and they did not have to waste not one timeout. I was very, very impressed.
Indeed. So we're taking a really quick break. Of course, we'll recap the rest of Week 1 and in the preseason slate in the NFL. Including, we actually had a last second TD in one of the afternoon games yesterday. Also, to a couple of debuts. We'll see how their quarterbacks did over the weekend, and so much more. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports, Sports of Chicago. More preseason talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
We have less than 83 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us regarding the Bears' victory last Saturday at Buffalo or any other action in the preseason you saw from around the NFL, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's get to the rest of the preseason action for this week, and let's start down in South Beach, where it's a pretty not a bad game between the Falcons and the Dolphins. The Dolphins hold off the Falcons 20-13, and you really didn't see a lot of Tua as expected. You saw a lot of Skylar Thompson and Mike White for the Dolphins. You saw rookie Michael Penix Jr., who actually looked pretty good, 104 yards. Passing yards. He had a couple of nice little catches as well. So what do you think about that game?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. The couple of clips that I saw, Michael Penix Jr. looked good, especially in the pocket. And when he sensed trouble, he was smart with the football. We saw that last year when he was with the University of Washington. So it looks like Michael Penix Jr. will be the future, maybe sooner rather than later, if Kirk Cousins doesn't recover from this Achilles injury. I know he was a big free agent signing at the quarterback position this offseason that the Falcons got. But I was very impressed with Michael Penix Jr. On the flip side for Miami, Jalen Wright had 10 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown, and Tanner Connor had 3 catches for 70 yards. The Dolphins defense came up late, only allowing Atlanta to score only 3 second-half points. But the story of the day, of this game, I should say, was rookie quarterback Michael Penix Jr. He was very impressive.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, it'll be interesting. We'll be seeing more Penix Jr., but going to be interesting there. Now, let's go to Baltimore, and some are already telling this. Could this be a Super Bowl preview, perhaps? Well, in this case, you really again, we didn't see a lot of the top guys. Lamar Jackson didn't play for Baltimore, neither did Jalen Hurts for Philly. it was more or less like the kind of like the standouts and the backups, if you will. So it's going to be interesting to see like with everything else. But yeah, 16-13 Eagles beat the Ravens in the Battle of the Birds, as they say. But didn't really watch too much of this game. But I saw the highlights. There were a couple of good stand-up performances. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Remember Kenny Pickett's over there now, the backup over there. He impressed. I know he's not a rookie, but again, this is he's in a new squad, but he looked pretty good. So yeah, what did you think about this game?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Kenny Pickett got the start. He had 89 yards passing and a touchdown. Their star running back, Kendall Milton, who got the start, 9 carries for 39 yards, and John Ross had 3 catches for 28 yards. Lakina, I know we look at the preseason to see what's going to happen, what strange things will occur, but what we saw in that game, at the end of that game, Philadelphia, Jake Elliott missed the kick, which would have won the game for Philadelphia originally. Then Baltimore gets it back. Well, they're going to try to force the game into overtime. Nope. They miscommunicated on the handoff. The guy fumbled it and right deep into the spot where Philadelphia and now Baltimore's territory. Philadelphia gets the ball deep in the Ravens' territory. They run one play, and then Jake Elliott hits the game winner. So anything that you wanted to see crazy that happened did happen toward the end of that game last Friday night.
Yeah, that's about as strange as you can get with that game.
Yes.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, like even let's say strangers in the preseason, go figure with that one. But but Eagles, they'll pull it out. So I guess if you're an Eagles fan, you appreciate that. Now another thrilling matchup. The Jets hold off the Commanders 20-17. Really, the big standout here was rookie QB and of course reigning Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. He looked good. Only threw 3 passes. He was only there for I think one series. They were 45 yards. Didn't force a turnover. Didn't take a sack. So I guess if you're a Commanders fan, you gotta feeling pretty good about that. Some of the other standouts. Brandon Smith had 70 rushing yards for the Jets, and the defense was actually pretty solid as well for the Jets. So I think if you're with all the weirdness that's going on with the Jets, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of build on this.
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers is not playing in the preseason at all. And his backup quarterback who got the start, Adrian Martinez, looked good, 104 yards passing. But I want to focus in on the flip side for the Commanders, Lakina. If they can get Jaden Daniels, I should say, to play just complimentary football, I think they'll be okay. Now, I know they got Terry McLaurin, who's his deep target. He's been there for years. But defensively, I think that's where the Commanders are going to shine. Remember, they got veteran linebacker Bobby Wagner over there now. So, and of course, he's familiar with Dan Quinn's system going back to their days in Seattle with the Legion of Boom. So, and even though their defensive line is being rebuilt on the fly, I think the Commanders' defense could do some damage while the offense gets together. I know there's a few people who think they could be the true surprise team this year. We'll wait and see, but I won't sleep on that Commanders team just yet.
They actually have a pretty good defense. The Commanders do. They're kind of like built through the draft and the free agency. So we'll see if they can. We'll get deep into it with our NFL East divisional previews. But I think the Commanders could be one of those surprise teams in the NFL. Let's go up to the Twin Cities. As the Vikings, I actually saw a lot of this game. The Vikings beat the Raiders 24-23. JJ McCarthy threw an interception, but it wasn't his fault. He did also throw for 2 TDs and one. If you heard Justin Jefferson, who didn't play on the mic, during the telecast, he was very excited. So he actually also has a future on the TV side. So if he decides years from now, he decides to do that, but. JJ McCarthy looked really good, and Gardner Minshew was actually the standout for the Raiders, threw for 117 yards and a TD. So remember, Antonio Pierce has not officially announced a quarterback yet, so he's trying to make a case talking about Minshew is there. It was kind of back and forth, but a late field goal sealed the win for the Vikings.
I know Kenneth Nwangwu was the standout star in the running back department for the Vikings. 5 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown. I know Aaron Jones is over there now. He'll be your starter once the regular season starts. But speaking of Tristan Jackson, the rookie wide receiver for the Vikings, 4 catches, 100 yards in the score. I want to go back to the Las Vegas Raiders and their quarterback situations. The stuff that I heard and read last week, and you mentioned Antonio Pierce is going to use this preseason along with the practices to determine the starter. Do you think that that Devontae Adams will be loaned for this team? Will he survive the season there? Because excuse me, he's getting older now, and if whoever's the starting quarterback, if they don't get up to a good start, I'm talking about the Raiders. You think he'll be seeking a trade in midnight to late October?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think if they have a slow start and they're bad, again, we don't really know for sure, but yeah, I think look, I know there was some rumors about it earlier, before training camp that Adams wants out. He denied it, but like you said, if they do go have a slow start, he those whispers might be louder. He might be vocal about it. So we gotta wait and see what happens with Mr. Adams there. Now, Theo Jackson was one of the standouts there on the defensive side for the Vikings, and I think their defense could definitely. I'm not gonna say they're gonna contend in the division, but I think they could be. Minnesota could be one of those teams where, look, I don't think people should write them off just because they had to get rid of a lot of their guys. They still got Justin Jefferson. They still got that nice little nucleus there, and their defense is actually pretty solid. So yeah, Minnesota might be another one of those teams that could surprise some folks. We'll have to wait. They just gotta get their QB situation in order. If McCarthy is, you know, he looked pretty good. Again, he had that interception early, but he settled down. If he looks good, I mean, look, Minnesota. I'm not gonna say they're gonna contend for the North, but they could definitely be in contention for one of those wild card spots.
I think that Brian Flores is back as a defensive coordinator for the Vikings. I know they finished in the top 15 in defense last year, which was very impressive, unlike the previous two seasons. So, like I said, the Vikings, I don't know, they're a playoff team. They may be on the fringe at best, but it may be the best 7-10 team, kind of like what the Bears were a year ago. But we'll see what happens. Like you said, they just had to get that quarterback situation straightened out.
Going to the dog pound. Well, the new dog pound in Cleveland, Green Bay 23-10 over the Browns. And, we'll see. We didn't see Jordan Love, of course. We saw a little bit of Jordan Love. He was perfect, 63 yards in the TD. Sean Clifford kind of took the reins there. Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked good for Cleveland. Some of the other, I guess, Emmanuel Wilson, they're kind of looking for like a new sort of like the replacement for Aaron Jones over there, Green Bay. He made a standout performance, 67 rushing yards. The defense actually looked pretty good too. Lots of kind of like I said, a lot of newer faces on both teams. A lot of these guys are kind of like fighting for spots, but a pretty good performance if you're a Packers fan.
Yeah, and that defense was outstanding as well. Jameis Winston, who got the start for the Cleveland Browns, didn't look that great. As Deshaun Watson, you mentioned, a whole lot of stars for the Cleveland Browns did not play. But Grant DuBose had a good game for Green Bay, 5 catches for 66 yards. And you mentioned, of course, Josh Jacobs. We were talking about the Raiders earlier, the former running back, now the member of the Green Bay Packers. He didn't play, but Emmanuel Wilson, you mentioned, had a great game, 13 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown. We talk about this Green Bay team, Lakina, coming in. You saw what they did last year. From November on, they were one of the best teams in the NFL. Jordan Love picked up his play, started to gain that confidence, and you saw what they did in the playoffs. There were a couple big plays away from playing the Lions in the NFC Championship game. I know people are going to pick the Lions to repeat as division champs, but I hate saying this coming out of my mouth, but I wouldn't look too far past Green Bay for taking that division title as well. I know it sucks for me to say that as a Bears fan here in Chicago, but just looking at things objectively, you cannot count Green Bay out as a possible division winner.
Definitely could be interesting to see if the Packers. Like I said, the Packers were right there. I mean, they get the 49ers all they can handle. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like I said, with a lot of new faces, with some new faces. So and a lot of those young guys actually did very well for them last year. So you got to think they can only get better now. Another very entertaining preseason game. Ashley Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, like Keenan McGee, Sidney Brown with you. We're recapping the first full weekend of preseason action in NFL. Bucks held off the Bengals 17-14. And I'm wondering, this is gonna be interesting because Tampa is one of those teams. Look, we didn't see Baker Mayfield play, but Kyle Trask threw for one interception. We didn't see Joe Burrow. He looked okay. He threw a touchdown in one of his opening series before he sat the rest of the game. So hopefully maybe that calf is doing better. We'll see what happens there. But I think it's going to be interesting. With both these teams, are going to be fascinating to watch. I feel like.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask was supposed to be the man last year, but Baker Mayfield came out of nowhere, rescued Tampa Bay into the playoffs. You saw what they did, and they were one big play away from going to the NFC title game. But as far as this game goes, for Cincinnati, Logan Woodside had 149 yards passing and a touchdown. Of course, Jermaine Burton for the Bengals had 3 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. Of course, T. Higgins, who's going to be the number 2 man now since Tyler Boyd is no longer there. He had a touchdown pass on that opening drive from Joe Burrow. So the Bengals still look good, and I don't expect Joe Burrow to play too much longer in the preseason since they have 2 games left along with Tampa Bay. And so Joe Burrow's night was done early. It's all about keeping him, I'm talking about Joe Burrow, healthy until the regular season starts. Because remember last year, he was battling that calf, and that affected their season big time with them missing the playoffs.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I also had wrist surgery too, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens with that. Now, Jacksonville and Kansas City. Marquise Brown, he's Andy Reid said he's going to miss some time after dislocating his clavicle, so made it. That's not a good loss. I know they got a lot of depth there, but on the receiving side, but yeah, that's a pretty big loss for the Chiefs. We'll see how long he's out now. The Jags doubled up on the Chiefs 26-13. Trevor Lawrence threw a touchdown in this series before he set the rest of the game. CJ there threw for 125 yards and a touchdown. In that game, DeForest Johnson was the leading rusher there. He's trying to make the team. And really not too much here on all fronts, but I think a lot of the mid guys kind of stood out.
Yeah, Jacksonville's defense was very impressive, especially in that second half, only limited the Chiefs to 3 points. Yes, most of the starters, if not all the starters, were out for Kansas City. But you mentioned Travis Etienne, who scored, the starting running back, who scored that touchdown in the opening drive. His backup, D'Ernest Johnson, had 5 carries for 31 yards. And Josiah DeGuara, the rookie tight end for Jacksonville, he had 3 catches for 42 yards. Jaguars' defense was very impressive, especially in that second half, as they cruised on to the 26-13 victory.
That's a very young, scrappy defense there. So they might have something to say in that AFC South. So we'll see what happens there. Tennessee held off San Fran 17-13. And I know we'll get to all this stuff. I know people want to kind of write out the 49ers. We'll get to that in a second. Josh Dobbs, 146 yards and an interception, but he was still a pretty solid, could be a key backup there for the 49ers. If, God forbid, Brock Purdy gets hurt, Mason Rudolph, remember, he's over there now. He's trying to get a slot there as well. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting, too. Malik Willis had a nice showing there, both running and passing. But, Julius Chestnut caught for 37 yards. Really, Tay Martin, who's one of the rookies for the 49ers, he led the game high with a 58 yards. So yeah, kind of like a lot of standouts from other guys, outside the first stringers.
Yeah, for Tennessee, it's all about new faces and new spots. Tajay Spears scored the first quarter touchdown. He's going to be the guy carrying the right now. If you're a Bears fan, you're going to see him in a few weeks as they open up the season here at Soldier Field in Chicago against the Bears. You mentioned about the 49ers. It's all about them staying healthy and finding that number 2 quarterback. You mentioned Josh Dobbs. He threw a pick off of 146 yards passing. Mason Rudolph is probably on his last legs as well, as far as trying to keep a job in the NFL. So for the 49ers, like you said, it was some turnover. It was some turnover during the offseason. It's all about keeping that continuity, and because in this salary cap league, you cannot lose too many opportunities to do something great. And the 49ers has been to the Super Bowl 2 out of the last, I believe, 4 years or 5 years. And so this is kind of their last stand. So they got to take advantage of it while they can.
Yeah, I know, because I heard like some folks say, is the window closed? No, I wouldn't say it's closed, but they better kind of get together here. I know with Brandon Ayuk and that situation, the contract situation now, I guess Trent Williams wants more guaranteed money. That's what he didn't get in his contract. So hopefully they'll figure all that out and whatnot. But we'll see. Tennessee, I think, is playing with house money at this point. So we'll see what happens with them. going to LA, 16-3, the Seahawks over the Chargers. The LA Chargers of Southern California, as we call them here. Sam Howell threw for 130 yards in a TD. On the flip side, no Justin Herbert still. I know that Coach Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, say he doesn't want to. He's not going to play him much throughout the season, so it's really kind of a free for all. Yesterday, well, I should say Saturday, but not really much here. But it was basically all Seahawks.
Yeah, let's move on to the next game. Because I know the Seahawks are starting a new era post Pete Carroll, but the Chargers, you're going to expect a lot of this throughout the preseason. I don't think Justin Herbert is going to play anyway, despite the plantar fasciitis in his right foot. But the Chargers, they just got to have all the other players healthy. I know Jim Harbaugh likes to run the ball, and that's what you're going to see with this offense come this year.
Spencer Rattler, well, let's go to Arizona. Spencer Rattler led a game-winning drive for the Saints as they beat the Cardinals 16-14. I actually saw a little bit of this game, and it was actually pretty entertaining. He threw for 76 yards. So of course, he led that drive for the game-winning field goal for the Saints. No Kyler Murray. You didn't see a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. In this. You might see him in their next game. I know that they want to kind of lead him into a little bit more, but there's actually a pretty entertaining game, oddly enough, for a preseason game in Arizona.
Yeah, speaking of backups, Clayton Tune, the backup QB for the Cardinals, 163 yards in a touchdown. Michael Carter for the Cardinals, 7 carries, 41 yards in the touchdown. And on the flip side for the Saints, wide receiver A.T. Perry, 4 catches for 85 yards. But like I said, not a whole lot of scoring, but the Saints did enough just to pull it out at the end.
Another thrilling game from yesterday. The Broncos held off the Colts. It was kind of a back and forth game throughout. And Bo Nix, he had a strong. Where's our buddy Chris Gilman? Of course, our buddy Chris Gilman is a big Broncos fan. I know he had to have been like what he saw from Mr. Bo Nix yesterday. 1 touchdown, but threw for 125 yards. He looked really good. Now, as for the Colts quarterback, of course, Anthony Richardson, his first game back, he looked okay. 2 for 4 for 25 yards. He also has some rushing as well, has some rushing yards as well. But a really solid game for Mr. Nix.
Yeah, I thought he looked real solid in the pocket. He was crisp with his throws, and with any rookie quarterback, it's going to take time to learn a new system because you're in the pros now, and you had to pick up on the defensive reads quickly. And how far can you do that? How well can you do that quickly? It will take you a long way. Now, Aldrick Estimine for the Broncos, their running back, he had 10 carries, 31 yards, and a touchdown. And on the flip side for the Colts, DJ Montgomery, their wide receiver, 2 catches for 45 yards.
A really solid debut there from Mr. Montgomery out of Austin Peay. He's one of those guys that's been around for a little bit, so he's definitely looking for a spot on the team. So he definitely showed up a little bit with that performance. So he's gonna be interested to see if he keeps up, so he can be deserving of a roster spot. Now, last but not least, probably one of the stranger finishes. Well, let's start off first. I guess the NFL goofed when their social media released something that Tom Brady was going to be doing his broadcasting debut. Whoops. The city got Andrew Siciliano. Andrew Wild worked from the Force, a former Ram, of course, NFL Man of the Year, and of course, Miss Mina Kimes from ESPN. So, you got those 3 instead. But it was a pretty entertaining game. 13-12 Rams beat Dallas. Stetson Bennett, the rookie from Georgia, even though he had 4 INTs, he actually led them to a game-winning TD drive in the last seconds, and the Rams were able to beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, we talk about the Rams defense and how this is going to look without Aaron Donald. It looks like it's going to be impressive, but it's just early on, so we had to see a little bit more from them. Now back to the Rams offense. Jordan Whittington, their stud wide receiver, he has 6 catches for 74 yards. He made a big impact in the passing game early, and of course, former Philadelphia Eagle running back now with the Rams, Boston Scott, had 15 carries for 68 yards.
Jordan Whittingham for the Rams, 74 receiving yards for them. The Rams, not really much in Dallas. I mean, look, you didn't see Dak. Cooper Rush still looked okay. Trey Lance actually looked pretty good. But he was sacked 3 times, like you said, Sid. So looks like the Rams defense is going to be okay without Mr. Donald. So, but we'll see about that. But yeah, just a really thrilling game all around.
Real quick, looking on the Cowboys side, Jerry Jones. I'm just paraphrasing here, since their star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb is holding out right now. We don't miss him, but we're not going to budge either. Okay, but CeeDee Lamb is still going to get his money, if not from you, from somewhere else.
And let's just say I'm talking about Lamb, got a kick out that if you saw his Twitter account.
Yes.
Let's just say he had a little bit of a field day with that. But the saga will continue. We'll keep you guys updated on that. We got a couple minutes before we go to break, Sid, for the top of the hour. So, Sid, top linebackers, real quick.
This comes to our good friends at foxsports.com, and I'll go through them kind of quick. Top of 10th, this is a top 10 linebackers to watch out for this upcoming 2024 season. Bobby Okereke from the New York Giants. He really had a good year last year. Also tied with him for 10th is Zaire Franklin from the Indianapolis Colts. He's one of those young and up and coming linebackers. So he really had a good year last year. Now with Shaquille Leonard out of the picture. Coming in at number 9, Quincy Williams from the New York Jets. I know the Jets as a whole are expected to do well defensively this year. And if Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball can stay healthy, that defense can be much more dangerous as they try to go back to the playoffs for the first time in a few years. Checking in at number 8, Bobby Wagner of the Washington Commanders. I brought his name up earlier. Now he's with Dan. He's reunited with Dan Quinn. They go back to their days in Seattle. Of course, Bobby was a member of the Los Angeles Rams the last couple of years, and so he's made the Pro Bowl 9 out of his last 10 seasons in the NFL. So he's really going to help the young Washington Commanders defense. Number 7, checking in, Matt Milano of the Buffalo Bills. He's really been underrated over the last few years, so I really like his play. They're trying to rebuild their Bills defense on the fly. And number 6, Patrick Queen of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the former Baltimore Raven. Star linebacker. Any issue thus far?
Nope. Good list so far.
Okay. Here are the top 5. Number 5, CJ Mosley of the New York Jets, also another former Baltimore Raven. Number 4, Levante David from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He really had a good year last year, especially in that game earlier this time last year against the Chicago Bears. Check it in at number 3, Demario Davis of the New Orleans Saints. We talked about the Saints for the last couple of years. Looking, they have a very good defense, especially led by veteran defensive end Cameron Jordan. But that unit is getting older, so they had to take advantage of it before it really comes crashing down. Number 2, we have Roquan Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. I know Brian Poles, GM of the Bears, gave Roquan the boot a couple of years ago. All Roquan has done is turned to be one of the best young linebackers in the game and got himself a new contract. So he checks in at number 2. And at number 1, the top linebacker to watch out for in the NFL this year, according to foxsports.com, is Fred Warner of the San Francisco 49ers. You know, I've been giving this guy his props the last couple of years. I think he makes that 49ers defense go.
Going to be interesting, though, because, he's going to be setting a lot of records. He's going to be a big problem for that defense. So, should be very interesting. But a good list.
Yeah. Real quick, they had a couple of honorable mentions. Nick Bolton of the Kansas City Chiefs and 2 Chicago Bears, both Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, I mean, look, if they can make a nice a year, look, they were good in those last few games last year. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
Yep, and that's your list, courtesy of foxsports.com.
All right, our good list, solid list by the guys at foxsports.com. Hour number 1 in the books, hour number 2 straight ahead. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, of course. We'll recap the rest of the weekend, the last weekend of the Olympics, as both the men's and women's basketball teams were pushed, as the U.S. finishes at the top of the medal count. Also, one popular Chicago sports personality is making a move out west. And Old School TV Monday, and so much more. Lakeena McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. We will go to the Diamond first, coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Lakeena McGee on IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions about the Cubs and the White Sox and the rest of Major League Baseball, as we're about to get into our Diamond Talk, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color right now on Roku TV.
Interesting that, for the first time in almost 100 years, that the Cubs and White Sox did not play on Sunday. And what did you do that Sunday off? Sid? At least you should feel a little relieved that you had to see any White Sox baseball yesterday. So
I did watch the USA Women's Basketball team, the gold medal game, and I know we'll get into that in our next break. But outside of that, I just started to catch up on some sleep. I did watch the Bears preseason game. Also, too, those are two important things I had to do to get out of the way in preparation for today's show. But outside of that, I caught up on sleep. And before we continue, I want to congratulate once again to the Chicago Sports Bums for holding a great tailgate last Saturday at Sox Pod. Lot B was popping, as the kids would say, before the Game 2 of the Cubs Sox series. Any and everybody who was famous in White Sox Twitter were out there. And I want to give a special shout out to Miss Julie Swyka, only now Julie Swyka Gannon. She, if you don't know her name, if you know your history of Chicago sports radio, she was the first female sports anchor at that time at 820 The Score, WSCR at the time. She was out there with her husband, who's happens to be a Cubs fan. I ended up talking with both of them for a good length amount of time. Both of them great people. And Miss Swyka, I invited her on to the show, so you'll see her as a guest on the show down the road. But as I always say, great people, great food equals great times. And shout out to the whole 108 crew as well, along with the Chicago Sports Buzz, Chef Ruddy. All of them did their thing. It was a great crowd out there. No foolishness, I like to report. There was no foolishness out there, so it was all a great time. Now, what happened in the game a couple of hours later, I would like to forget. But outside of that, it was a great time in Lot B last Saturday afternoon.
Only thing with a really good time. Of course, there was some foolishness, I guess, during right near the end of the game.
Yeah, we had two fools run on the field, and one of them got injured.
Yeah.
Goofy.
Yeah, one of them got hurt, and the other guy got arrested. I think that guy just got out of the hospital. I think he's gonna have something to say about that. So if I were him, I would get a lawyer. But other than that, I mean, the Cubs did win both games against the White Sox. Sweeping them for I think just the fourth time that they've swept the White Sox in their season series. But yeah, I mean, look, the Cubs are still right there to think of it. They're only 3 games back of the second wild card spot now, because the good news for them is that the other teams around them have been struggling, and they've been taking care of business. So, look, they got a tough one coming up against Cleveland. Now, they've been having their own issues, but we'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, I mean, Cubs, if you got to be feeling pretty good, if you're a Cubs fan. The White Sox, I mean, you fought back after being shut out. I guess you could say Grady Sizemore's guys don't quit. But that Benintendi, of course, couldn't pull through after helping the White Sox would get the comeback there, and of course they couldn't do it. They couldn't catch up on Saturday, but yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like a tale of two cities or tale of two teams, I guess. One team is kind of like their stock is starting to rise up a little bit, and we won't go into any specifics about the White Sox, but but yeah, I mean. You take care of business if you're the Cubs. Keep taking one series at a time. The White Sox, well, you got about 6 more weeks of this.
Yeah. Now I'll start with the Cubs first. Of course, I know you were nervous more than anybody with Hector Neris on the mound last Friday night. As the Sox left them, yeah, and the Sox left them loaded. Thank you very much, Andrew Vaughn. But anywho, the Cubs offense, as we talked about for the last couple of weeks, they're starting to turn it around. They're 8-2, I believe, in their last 10 games. And like I said, Ian Happ had a couple of home runs in that game on Friday. Isaac Paredes, their new third baseman who they acquired in exchange for Christopher Morel from the Tampa Bay Rays at the trade deadline, he had a big hit during that series. And right now, the Cubs offense, it looks like it's starting to come together. I know that Cody Bellinger is now back as well. And Seiya Suzuki, hopefully he'll continue to improve defensively in that outfit, because it's a slight mystery too out there with him at times defensively. But Justice Steele pitched very good last Saturday night. He kept the Cubs in it, and rightfully so, because the White Sox just still sometimes it's like watching them pulling teeth to try to score more than run. And that was the case last Saturday. But as we said before, like we've been saying, for the Cubs, just keep taking series. And now you're, I think, 3 games behind in the last wild card spot. And looking at the series ahead against the Guardians, you have Shota Imanaga, who's going to start tonight. You could really set the tone there. You mentioned the Guardians having their own issues. We'll get to that in a moment. But the way this pitching matchup is set up for Chicago, I'm going to go out and limb, said they're going to take 2 out of 3 at the Tribe, formerly known as the Tribe, by the way. But they can take 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. I think they will do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll talk about Cleveland struggles in a second here, but yeah, I think they probably could. I mean, like I've been saying, this is probably after them. They play, pretty much. I don't want to say easy schedule, but most of the teams they play after Cleveland, they're under 5, just just at 500 or under. So they've got a chance to make up even more ground here. But just like I've been saying, just take care of your business, take it one game at a time. That's all really you can do for the Cubs. And you can't worry about what the other teams are doing. Just take care of your business and do your thing. Now, as for the White Sox, they come back home and they face the Yankees. So I'm sure the crowds at G-Rate are going to be pretty packed. So if nothing else, so should be interesting there with that game. We'll talk about.
I'll be there tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, so should be a fun series there as well. We'll see. So let's go to the rest of the. Well, speaking of the Yankees, let's go to the AL East. Start there, and them and the Orioles are still tied. So for those of you who are wondering about that, they just can't get away from each other. Apparently, the Yankees are coming off a 2 out of 3 series win against the reigning champs, the Texas Rangers, while Baltimore also won 2 out of 3. They actually had a chance to sweep the Rays, but they weren't able to do it. So yeah, that's that might be one of those games that might come back to bite the Orioles. We'll see, but they just can't get away from each other in that division.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a neck-to-neck race to the finish. Who's going to take the AL East division title? I'll start off with the Yankees first. Giancarlo Stanton is back. This is I believe the 13th time he's had a 20-plus home run season for him. So he hit his 20th home run of the year yesterday. And, of course, Juan Soto went yard and Aaron Judge went yard. So when those 3 bats get going, it's really hard to beat the Yankees. Now, the Yankees, as we talked about last week, Lakina, the only thing I'm concerned about them is that, one, their health, and number 2, their bullpen. Their bullpen damn near gave it up yesterday, but they were able to hold on for the win to take the series against the Rangers. Baltimore, they had we all know about the talent on the offense, and their starting pitching is starting to come around, but I'm worried a little bit about their bullpen too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we said that last year too with Baltimore. That's what kind of killed them last year. That's why they got knocked out early in the playoffs. So hopefully can rectify that. Now going back to Yankees for a second. Speaking of Mr. Soto, that's actually his 30th home run that he hit yesterday. He actually becomes the first player in MLB history to hit 30-plus home runs in a season with 3 different teams. Of course, he hit for the Padres last year. Last couple of years, of course, he won a World Series with the Nationals. So trying to make that money, make a case for making that cash. So we'll see what happens down the line with that. Now going into the Red Sox. Okay, look, not a good weekend. They got swept by the Astros, and one of their top players was heard saying a slur, if you will. I won't say the slur, but you guys, Google's your friend, folks. But not a good look, and not a good weekend for the Red Sox.
Yeah, we talk about the Red Sox being one of those surprise teams in the league this year, and no one expected too much from them. But they have surprisingly good starting pitching, and they have timely hitting. But they ran into the ball, so like we talked about with the Houston Astros. Houston, they were struggling with injuries, especially early on in the year, especially with their starting pitching. I know Kyle Tucker, one of their star players, was down as well. So as we talked about last year with this Astro team, it looks like the same script is going to be followed this year. They're going to have to do it with their offense, and the offense is starting to come around.
Yes, they are. So, we'll see if they can kind of figure things out there. Now, going to the Central, of course, the Cubs' next opponent, the Guardians. They did went to they actually split their series with the Twins. I think one of them was a makeup game. But the good news is that I guess they're still kind of within. They're kind of keeping the Twins at bay to their credit in the rest of that division. So it's going to be very interesting in the AL Central.
Yeah, we talked about Minnesota grabbing momentum over the last couple of weeks, and this was their time to make their move and close that gap between themselves and the Guardians. They caught Cleveland off guard by winning the first 2 games of that series. Of course, Cleveland came back to win the last 2, but I'm not going to say this AL Central division race is going to go down to wire, because I still think Cleveland has a little bit more consistency, especially with their offense, to win this division. That's what I expect to happen. But Minnesota will be in the mix for that wild card. They have surprisingly good starting pitching. Bailey Orber. You talk about Pablo Lopez as well. And, of course, they're led by veterans on the offensive side with with Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa as well. And let's not forget about Ramon Castro as well. So and Carlos Santana. So they do still have some decent bats in their lineup, but I wonder how their starting pitching is going to hold up between now and the end of the season.
That's going to be the big question there. You saw what happened yesterday during that weekend series. Now the Twins are interesting because like we said, they did split their series, so it's gonna it's getting kind of tight in that AL Central. We'll talk about the Royals in a second, but I feel like if the Guardians can kind of they don't do well in their series against the Cubs, maybe perhaps maybe Minnesota or Kansas City can make that move.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We still have a long way to go, but my prediction is I think Cleveland is still going to find a way to win the AL Central.
Going to be very interesting there in that division. Just like I see Sports on Sports of Chicago. Lakeem McGee, Cindy Brown with you, talking some MLB here as we go to Diamond. Going out west. These are, again, another division that's getting quite interesting. The Astros and the Mariners are still tied. Go figure with that. Now, of course, Houston took care of business, and so did the Mariners. I was a little surprised about this, this series. I'm a little bit worried because the Mets have been playing well. Well, sure enough, they not only did they win, but they swept the weekend series against the Mets, including on yesterday, where it was all Mariners, I should say. Cal Raleigh homered twice and had 5 RBIs, and it's interesting, that he's been kind of like the guy. Of course, we know Julio Rodriguez and some of the other guys on that squad. Of course, he leads the team. We're talking about Raleigh in home runs, RBI, runs, walked, and extra base hits. The last catcher to lead a major league team in those five categories. Got to go way back to Mr. Roy Campanella. Got rest his soul back in 1945 for the old Baltimore Elite Giants. So. It's definitely some history making there, but he's definitely keeping the Mariners in that ALS.
And we talked about Seattle needing a little juice on with their offense. They got Randy Rosarena via trade at the trade deadline for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's made a difference so far, but the Mariners are known for pitching. And Luis Castillo, their starter last night, did his thing. He pitched 6 innings, only giving up 2 walks while striking out 9. He's really been impressive in this recent stretch. And looking inside the numbers in this series for Seattle, you mentioned they swept the messy mess, as you call them. And in the Seattle's team ERA was a 0.33 ERA. Very stellar.
Very, very stellar. And and I think that was definitely a series that they needed because they have been struggling a little bit the last few weeks. Talk about the Mariners. So so I guess being the Mets at home is just what the doctor ordered for them. Now,
and that was their first Sunday night baseball game in 20 years.
Yeah, so nice, beautiful scenery there, and they got a really dominant win, and they pretty much dominated that whole series. Now, do you think it's over with for the Rangers? They're 7.5 back. They're still within.
I think so.
Still looks like it's a wild card, but losing 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. Yeah, it's for too many injuries and stuff, so it's probably curtains for them. Now, Philadelphia, they've lost 3 in a row as they get swept. The only good thing about it is that the other teams around them have not been playing well either. So if you're a Phillies fan, you're not doing well. You got swept by the D-bats in Arizona, but at the same time though, like no one else seems to want to catch up. So you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I know the Diamondbacks have been the best team in Major League Baseball record-wise since early July, and they continue to pound the ball. You still got Corbin Carroll, you still have Christian Walker. Of course, you had the young starting pitcher who showed up in the playoffs last year in Zach Gallen. So give them credit. I don't know. I don't think they're going to catch the Dodgers, but they're not going to go away for sure in terms of getting one of those 3 wild card spots. So I believe they're 12 games over 500 now. And so I don't expect them to go away in the wild card race anytime soon.
Atlanta, they lose 2 out of 3 in Colorado. High scoring affairs on all 3, but they only got they only won one of those games, and so I don't want to put a nail in the coffin on the Braves just yet. But at the same time, they're making it really hard.
Yeah, the bullpen gave them a shot in the arm going downwards. They gave up 7 runs, I believe, in the 8th inning yesterday as Colorado came out on your back, in which they defeated the the Braves 9-8 to take this series. But Atlanta's lost 7 out of their last 8 games, and that team ERA is at an 8.45.
Yeah, that's not good if you're trying
Exactly.
if you're trying to stay within striking distance in that division. They're not even the wild. They're not even leading the third. They only have the third wild card spot anymore. The Mets actually have that. So, well, they're actually up by a half game in that wild card. But yeah, I mean Atlanta. Yeah, I'm not liking their chances there. Now going to the Central here. Now the Cubs are 9 back, so I don't think I think it's good. It's too big of a hole there. But the Brewers did win 2 out of 3 against the Reds. Could have swept them, but yeah, they weren't able to pull off the sweep there. So they're hanging on by a thread. So I guess that helps a little bit.
I want to give shout out to the Brewers starting pitcher last Saturday, Tobias Myers. He pitched 7 shutout innings. He only struck out 9 while walking 0. Only gave up 3 hits as the Braves. Sorry, not the Braves. Sorry, the Brewers beat the Reds 1-0 last Saturday. As we talked about before, we'll talk about it many times. The Brewers do not have the sexy names on offense. I know Christian Yelich, who was injured, he's still on there. Willie Adames, and you still have Terang in that lineup. But it's all about their bullpen and their starting pitching, and they got that this past weekend, taking 2 out of 3 against the Cincinnati team, who I thought was going to make the playoffs, but they're still a few games under 500. I don't know if they're going to recover.
Yeah, that Cincy team. You thought, I think a lot of people had them perhaps making a big move. They look like they're not going to do it, so we'll see. But yeah, St. Louis. I mean, again, you thought that maybe St. Louis could also kind of be right there in that division, but they they split their 2-game run against the state Missouri state rival, the Royals. So, but yeah, they couldn't really afford that if they want to stay within striking distance of that Central. So things are getting interesting there in the Central Division. Pittsburgh, they're starting to fall back to earth a little bit. They've lost 7 in a row. So I guess probably it.
You can say goodbye to their famed playoff chances.
Yeah, whatever playoff chance they had, you can kind of say toodles to that. Now the Dodgers, it looks like they're starting to kind of get going. I know they've had a lot of injuries. Speaking of, they did sweep the Pirates. They took care of business at home. So
they beat Paul Skeens on last Saturday night.
Yes, they did. So yeah, they kind of knocked him back into reality as well. So they got something that they really needed. So yeah, I mean, hopefully Dodgers fans are a little bit more calmer today than they probably were maybe, but especially with we'll get to the Padres in a second. I know we talked about the Diamondbacks and they've been hot lately, but look, I mean the Dodgers can only take care of their business, so hopefully can kind of put a little bit of distance between them and those 2 teams in the West.
Hopefully Clayton Kershaw can continue as he tries to come back from his shoulder injury. And I know the Dodgers are limiting his pitch count in his innings. I think the Dodgers will get 2 players back this week. I think Mookie Betts is supposed to come back tonight. We'll see what happens with that. And Max Muncy, who's been injured all year long, he may return as soon as later on this week. So the Dodgers starting to get some of the key guys back, and we'll see what happens once this squad finally starts to get healthy. I know Freddie Freeman, thank goodness, with the news. We talked about it last week on the show with the good news with his son. He returned to game action this time last week. Of course, Shohei Ohtani is still my number 1 pick for NL MVP. He hit another muscle home run in that series against Pittsburgh. So looks like things are starting to come together for the Dodgers. But as you mentioned with San Diego, who are you going to bring up now? They're right there on their heels.
Speaking of the Padres, Jackson Merrill hit a game-tying home run in that Saturday game. This is his 4th game-tying home run in the 8th inning or later in a span of 50 days or less. He's the first guy to do that, and he's only 21. So, one of the reasons why they're even there where they are, he's probably one of the main reasons. So it's kind of remarkable. Now, unfortunately, they did lose. They should have swept that series against the Marlins. They did lose that rubber match 7-6. It was a tough one there. That could be one of those losses that come back to bite you in the butt too. But the Padres, right now, they're trying to hang on. Hanging there with the Dodgers.
Yeah, we all know about the names on that offense for the Padres, but what they have to do is continue that consistency in the starting pitching. The bullpen is okay, but the offense has to continue to stay hot, and it looks like that's what's happening right now. And wrapping up the NL West talk, the San Francisco Giants at 61-59 as of this live broadcast. They take 2 out of 3 against the pesky Detroit Tigers.
Trying to stay within distance in the they probably won't make a go of that in that West, but they're definitely still right there. They're going to be for the one of the wild card spots. So they may have to face jump over a couple of one of their rivals to do it. So in the Padres and the D-backs. So we'll see. I think the Giants are still in it. So we'll see what happens there. Now going to the scheduling for this week, well, part of this week anyway, the first part of this week. Of course, we talked about the Cubs and the Guardians. They kick off their series tonight, later on today, I should say. St. Louis and the Reds. That should be an interesting series in the NL Central, as it usually is. Houston and Tampa Bay, and also the first game of this series, as the Red Sox host the Rangers. That'll be on ESPN at 6 there. Monday night game of the week there. Minnesota, they host Kansas City. One could probably knock the other out in the second place in that division on the AL Central. The Dodgers and the Brewers. That should be a fun series. Could that be a playoff series preview? Perhaps we'll see. And of course, the Yankees at the White Sox to kick off that series.
The series starting tonight. Toronto visits Los Angeles to take on the Angels. Colorado will visit Arizona. Pittsburgh at San Diego. And Atlanta will visit the San Francisco Giants by the Bay. Other series that will start tomorrow. The Beltway series between the Washington Nationals and the Baltimore Orioles. The Miami Marlins will visit Philadelphia. Your Seattle Mariners will visit Motown to take on the Detroit Tigers. You mentioned St. Louis at Cincinnati. The Oakland A's will visit New York to take on the Mets in the Big Apple. And we mentioned the other series. So those are the series that will start tomorrow. Your Tuesday night game on TBS will be the Los Angeles Dodgers at the Milwaukee Brewers. That's at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Your MLB Network games tomorrow, you got Pittsburgh and San Diego, Atlanta and San Francisco. That's at 8:40, 8:45 respectively. The early game on Wednesday on MLB Network, you got Kansas City and Minnesota wrapping up that series. Another regional coverage from the MLB Network. You got the Dodgers and the Brewers finishing up that series. And, of course, Yankees and the White Sox all are going to be on MLB Network, but they're also going to be simulcast on Prime Video for those White Sox fans that are interested. So that should be interesting there, streaming on Prime.
Yeah, that's for you, for the Yankees fans in the tri-state area.
All right, so that is your schedule for this week, I should say, in MLB.
The USA men's and women's basketball team finished off strong with gold medals, both in dramatic fashion in their final contest. And the USA finished strong as number 1 in the medal count overall. We have sports media news as one big personality moves on up to the East Coast. In time permitting, we'll have Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. You stay right there, only on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, But one of these days, a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in Living Color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keena again, the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today. So if you have any last minute questions or comments as we put a nice golden bow on the Olympics, sports media news, and a whole lot more, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Again, I'm going to get them up on the screen for you.
All right, let's put a capper on those Paris Olympics that ended last night in Paris. We'll start with the women's basketball since it was yesterday. They got all they can handle from the French Olympic squad as Gabby Williams. Look, they always say situational awareness, I guess, and unfortunately, she didn't. I guess when she shot the ball at the time, it was a bang bang play, but as you shoot the ball, and she didn't realize that her foot was inside the line. They were down by 3. France was, and they were just 1 point short of forcing the overtime. But this is the 9th the 8th, I should say, gold medal in a row for the women on the U.S. side. So, but they got all they can handle there from France, especially Gabby Williams. People wonder, like, okay, how is Gabby Williams in France? Plays for France. Well, she actually plays there professionally outside of when the WNBA season's over with. So she plays there a lot. Actually, she owns a home. She owns property there. So that's why she's on the French squad. So with all the depth of the WNBA, and of course some ladies not being able to make the team, you're going to be seeing some of these players play in play against other countries, especially if they play in those particular countries professionally after the WNBA season.
Yeah, it was congratulations to the USA women's basketball team for winning the 8th straight gold medal. It was a heck of a game to watch. They were tied with France at 25 at halftime. They trailed as many, I believe, 10 points by the end of the third quarter. But as we saw throughout this tournament, it was defense for Team USA. And congratulations to Diana Taurasi. I believe she has 6 of those gold medals now out of those 8. As I think this was her last Olympics. And also to Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart. I thought they were the most 2 consistent players that the USA women's team has had throughout this tournament. Both those ladies played well. and also to Kelsey Plum brought us a nice spark plug off the bench as well.
Should be, I would say, a very nice showing there. I think they are starting. I think the other countries are starting to catch up a little bit. Like I said, in the sense that there's a lot of depth. They're going to be seeing some of these players, these mid-tier players, go to other countries to play on their squad. So it's going to be interesting as we go into Los Angeles the next 4 years. We'll talk more about that in due time. But on the men's side, though, they also got all they can handle. It got down to I think like 3 with less than I think like 4 minutes left in the fourth. But of course, as usual in the semifinals, Mr. Steph Curry hit those 3 points, clutch shots. Like I think one of the French commentators, called him the devil, the devil's Curry or whatever he said.
How fitting, quote unquote.
But yeah, as Curry and the men's team said, night to Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, Evan Fournier, the rest of that squad, holding it off for their 5th straight gold medal. In there, and it's gonna be interesting though to see like what happens. Of course, LeBron already said that this is gonna be his last Olympics, so he has 4 medals, including 3 gold. Kevin Durant becomes the first on the men's side to win 4 golds on the men's basketball squad. Of course, Steph got his, he really wanted that gold medal more than anything. That was the only thing that was really missing from his resume. And of course, like I said, Kevin Durant. Of course, now Steph actually joins the company with Durant and and LeBron and a few others. He has now at least 1 gold medal, a Finals MVP, a regular season MVP, and at least 1 NBA championship. So that he joins that pretty exclusive list. I think of course Kobe is in it. I think MJ's in it as well. So a nice showing for them. We'll talk about the rest of the future of that squad. But what did you think about that game yesterday?
It was a classic game and a classic title fight for Team USA for the men. We talked about it last Friday, Lakina. I thought that they should have lost the game to Serbia, but Steph Curry stepped out and hit some big shots, and they actually got it done with defense. The same scenario happened last Saturday against France in the gold medal game. What I liked about Team USA is a couple of things. They've been getting it done with defense throughout this whole tournament. That's number 1. Number 2, we talked about around this time on our last Monday episode that Steph Curry only averaged 7.7 points per game. In these last 2 games, he really went off, and you needed a guy to come up with a big bucket when it matters most. And Steph Curry did that these last 2 games. He had 24 points in the gold medal game, with including 8 of 13 shooting from downtown against France. And you need somebody, that go-to guy for a clutch basket, and Steph Curry was that guy. Number 3, what impressed me more about Team USA with the balanced scoring. Yes, Joel Embiid struggled against Victor Wembanyama, who's been struggling against Victor Wembanyama. This version of Victor Wembanyama, the Olympic version of Victor, everybody has. But even though Embiid only scored 4 points, Kevin Durant scored 15, LeBron James scored 14, Anthony Davis had 9 points and 8 rebounds coming off the bench. And you have Devin Booker, who picked up his clutch play from the Serbia game. He also had 15 points. So that balanced scoring from the U.S., especially within their starting 5, I thought that was very key, and I don't think too many people were talking about that.
It was very balanced, and look, Embiid did his thing, so he got his gold medal. AD, this is number 2 for AD. Bam also 2, number 2 for him. Of course, he was on there 3 years ago, as well as Jason Tatum. He played a lot on Saturday, much to the delight of his fans. Drew Holiday. Now, if you want to ensure that the U.S. wins another gold medal in 4 years, have Drew Holiday win an NBA championship. Of course, 3 years ago he won with Milwaukee. About a month later, of course, for circumstances, but yeah, they ended up winning the gold medal. Same thing here. Of course, he wins his 2nd title with the Celtics. Now he wins a gold medal there. So I guess if you want to ensure the U.S. Winning gold next year, maybe you should have a Drew Holiday winning a championship. This is number 2 for him. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the new core. Of course, Anthony Edwards gets his first gold with the team, and also Tyrese Halliburton. You really didn't see too much of him, but he gets a gold medal, and he actually made a joke about it, saying that look, he just basically chilled for like 2 weeks, but still got a gold medal. So you got to think with him and Tatum and Bam and you got to think that's going to be like kind of like the core. So who's going to join that core in 4 years? That's going to that Grant Hill and the rest of the USA basketball kind of figure out.
I think who's going to join that core in the next Olympics in Los Angeles whoever rookies get drafted in the NBA over the next 3 years. Maybe it's Cooper Flag for this upcoming season for the Duke Blue Devils. I don't know, but watch out for the rookies who get drafted in next year's draft and in next two after that. I think keep out for these two names. I think one of them could be a shoo-in if he stays out of trouble. Another one, maybe. I'm talking about John Moran of the Memphis Grizzlies and Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans.
Zion could have been on the team, I guess, in 21, but of course, injuries kind of kept him from going on that team. Same thing with Ja, I think, with the injuries, of course, now with all the foolishness. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, USA Basketball has a couple years to figure out who's going to be that part of that core.
Yeah.
That new
I think
core.
Ja has a better shot than Zion.
Yeah, probably. And they already got the big guys. They need kind of the big guys up front. So really solid squad there. You saw Pau Gasol there handing out some of the medals there too. He has a couple of silvers to his credit. Now going back to the women's game, I want to give a shout out to Miss Sabrina Eskew. She had a nice moment with Vanessa Bryant and Natalia and the other her other two daughters. And that was a really nice moment. I know she's still very close to them, of course, after Kobe and Giada Bryant's tragic death. So I'm glad they're still close. Nice moment, of course. Asia Wilson and Bam. Speaking of, supposedly there are a couple. Asia Wilson, okay. But yeah, we'll leave that there to the gossip pages. But yeah, nice showing by her and her second straight gold medal for her as well in that game yesterday for the women. So going into the track side, the 4x4s, the 4x4, the U.S. swept. I think for the third straight Olympics that they swept for the. I think this is the third straight for the men, and I think this is 8 straight for the women. And Sydney McLaughlin, Lavroni, and Gabby Thomas just handed the field. Shamira Little, of course, give a shout out to her. She's from Limboon, Chi-Town girl. Alexis Holmes, really did not. Basically, what she had to do was stay upright, but the U.S. women dominated that 4x4 relay.
I think I saw your tweet yesterday. It said that the USA women's track team that could teach the men a little something about handing up the baton very cleanly, and I agree with you on that. But we talked about Sha'Carri Richardson being the story for the USA women's track and field team, but it was Gabby Thomas who attended Harvard University. I thought she really showed out in these games. I think she is the new face of women's track and field in the U.S. So I thought she really showed out as well. I think she's going to be the next star. Of course, Lakina, we talk about us watching the Olympics way back when with, remember Gail Devers? I saw a post on Instagram the other day. I was like, that's right. She dominated. Even though it's for a short time, she dominated. Of course, you talk about the late Florence Griffith Joyner and Jackie Joyner Kersey. They were dominant throughout the 80s and early 90s. And so it's nice to see that tradition continue for the USA women's track team.
Yeah, Gabby Thomas. I think she joins. 11 others. I think Allison Fields was the last to do that in 2012 in her first Olympics to win the 200, the 4x1, and the 4x4. So she had a really busy Olympics as well. She did, of course, Sydney McLaughlin-Laverne. She won the 400-meter hurdles. Ry Benjamin also won the men's 400-meter hurdles. He has that in his resume as well. He was able to kind of get off exercise those divas and won there. And Messiah Russell, it was a photo finish between her and a French runner, but she wins the first time, I think, 12 years since the U.S. has won in that event. Also, the first time in Olympic history, which is kind of crazy when I saw this, that all 4 hurdle events were won by Americans, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But then, it kind of makes sense. Of course, we talked about, of course, Grant Holloway won a couple of days ago. The men's 110. So, really great showing there. And actually a great showing by overall the U.S. that track and field because they did very well in the field events. They won in women's discus. Really. And, of course, Atara Davis-Woodall, we didn't get a chance to talk about her, but she's the long jumper, reigning world champion. She ended up winning it. You saw that sweet moment between her and her husband, Hunter. Hunter actually has a couple of medals in his own right as a Paralympian. If you saw their story, how they met in a high school event, and they kept in touch. She reached out to him, they kept in touch, and just a really sweet love story. You're going to be seeing him in a couple of weeks in the Paralympics in Paris when they're at the end of the month on the NBC network. So a really great showing by the U.S. and some great stories coming out of that as well.
Yeah, great story, and you can't help but root for them and great things to happen to those great people. I want to get your take on the Jordan Childs controversy it's not her fault, Lakina. It was a scoring error by those judges, or they asked her to they want her to give her bronze medal back. Of course, the reason why this is so big because this was the first time we saw all black podium for bronze, silver, and gold for the ladies gymnastics. And now, fortunately, a bad judging error by the judges could ruin that moment. If I'm Jordan Childs, I would have every person on my side, have every piece of evidence on my side fighting this because I didn't do anything wrong. This is Jordan. If I'm Jordan Childs, I didn't do anything wrong. I did what I was supposed to do. It was your fault, not mine.
Well, you know what? He might get that redemption too because apparently, late. If you guys didn't see this, late last night. Well, late afternoon, yesterday afternoon, the U.S. Federation actually released a statement saying that they got evidence where her coach actually did the protest within. They actually have a timestamp video where it was well within a time for, I guess, to give you like a minute. I guess they said it was over a minute, but they got evidence saying it was like 45 seconds or something like that. So it was well within that time frame. So she might be able to keep that medal. So. Look, the court of arbitration for sport. I mean, you're doing a little heavy-handed here, but you're gonna be look. All you had to do was let the Romanian gymnast get the bronze medal too. But no, you had to look stupid and be idiot. And now you're gonna look even more of an idiot thanks to this evidence by the U.S. Gymnastics Federation. So to be continued, but I think this will get resolved pretty quick if they got that evidence that they need. So
yeah, the longer this drags out, the longer it looks bad for those officials. So like you said, they better solve this in due time.
Next Olympics will be in Milan Cortina for the Winter Olympics, and you got the Summer Olympics coming up in 4 years in Los Angeles. Then you got 2030 in the French Alps, 2032 Brisbane, and of course 2034 the Winter Olympics, I should say, for in Salt Lake, and some big ratings for NBC and the family of networks. I know it's streamed very well on Peacock. So if you're NBC, you gotta be feeling pretty good about where you're at right now with your Olympic coverage. Really solid coverage by everybody. I'm sure. I know now they're saying this. I think Snoop Dogg, they wanted to do more Olympic events. I think they're even trying to get him to recruit for Milan Cortina for in northern Italy for a couple of years in the Winter Olympics. That'll be interesting. Him doing his snowboarding. That'll be interesting there. But
it's too cold, baby, for shizzle.
Exactly. So yeah, it should be interesting to see if he agrees to do that. But yeah, but a really nice showing. Really well done by a lot of the folks there. And it was well produced. And I guess those boycotts. I guess what?
What boycotts?
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, like
exactly.
Yeah, all those folks that were throwing the boycott. Okay. But yeah, the great showing there. Of course, the U.S. is a finishing tie with China for with 40 goals. Could have had one if we'll get to that with the men's high jump, but they got Shelby McEwen got silver there. But I digress. But yeah, so really good showing there, and I guess about 70% of the medals that were won by women, the women athletes. So thank God for who runs the world, girls, I guess. But real quick with the men's 4x1, I know Kenny McNair, who was receiving the Bosch baton pass. I know he did the Bruno event. I know some people were kind of getting on him about that, but I'm kind of with Carl Lewis when he said that something's got to change because yeah, that wasn't I know Noah Lyles wasn't there. I know he was seen up clubbing whatever late last night in France, but we won't get into that. But yeah, it's always something with that men's 4x1. I don't think they've won an event there in the Olympics since like 2000. So they haven't really won none, I think, this century. So I don't know what you can do with that men's 4x1. I don't know what you can do.
Yeah, like I said, they got to tighten up a lot of nuts and bolts there between now and Los Angeles in 2028. I do want to give NBC Sports a shout out, especially with the Olympic red zone coverage with Scott Hansen and Andrew Siciliano. I thought both those gentlemen did a great job. And I was listening to Fred Rogan on AM 570 LA Sports last week, and he talked about how the Olympics probably will be covered in 4 years since it's going to Los Angeles. And he said that with the West Coast, because we're here in Chicago, is 2 hours behind us here in Chicago right now. Most of those primetime events that were tape delayed because Paris is 9 hours ahead of us, those events will start earlier, and you'll get even better numbers in primetime because most of the live events, especially pay attention to track and field and basketball, they're going to put those events on in prime time in 4 years, since those events will start early out there in LA because they're on the West Coast.
That could benefit, definitely benefit for them. And they are Mayor Karen Bass, who has already said it's going to be a car-free Olympics, so you have to take some public transportation. So that's going to be interesting next year, next few years there as well. But yeah, I can see they can make. They had good numbers, over these last 2 weeks. They'll probably get even bigger numbers next year. So I actually agree with the fact that with them being only 2 hours ahead, 3 hours ahead if you're on the East Coast, if you're in New York, Philadelphia. Yeah, that could definitely help, especially. So if you think about it, 40 years ago, of course, all this stuff happened, with Carl Lewis and his dominance, and Michael Jordan getting his first gold medal, and just fresh out of college, among others. Of course, Roddy Gaines, of course, how fitting, he's been like the voice of Olympic swimming all these years. Of course, he started his Olympic glory in Los Angeles, winning, he won like 3 gold medals there. So only for that he decides to retire, where kind of where his Olympic glory started. So yeah, gonna be a lot of stories coming up in the next few years there. So it should be exciting.
And don't forget, with that new arena set to open up this fall for the Los Angeles Clippers, they're going to use that arena.
Oh yeah,
for basketball, and they'll probably use the stadium formerly known as Staples Center, probably for gymnastics and other events. So that's going to get used as well. So, like I said, there's a whole lot of venues around that Los Angeles metropolitan area. And they're going to use SoFi Stadium probably for the opening and closing ceremonies.
Probably.
And what other events they're going to use there? Maybe gymnastics, I don't know. But SoFi Stadium is going to get heavy usage as well. We saw it in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and it's going to get more usage now with the Olympics in 4 years.
They could use that for track, maybe, perhaps, or maybe they'll use that new arena for the Clippers. Maybe they'll use that for like maybe volleyball or something, or for gymnastics. So yeah, look, they've got a lot of those buildings are still there when they use it, because a lot of them just been modernized and modified. And like you said, they got some more stuff coming up, so it should be interesting in Los Angeles next year. Plus, should get big numbers, like you said, with the being out west, and so should be fun these next few years coming up. So yeah, well, also look, Quincy Wills, of course, a 16-year-old. You might see him there next year. Once I'm sure he'll be bigger and stronger for the 400 for the men. He'll be a man now. He'll be a grown man now. So you'll probably seeing him the next few years too. Anna Hall, who she didn't medal, but coming off a knee surgery and have Tathlon, but she's only 23. She'll be back stronger than ever next year. So yeah, gonna be seeing some of these names you'll probably be seeing next year. But yeah, some of the other names you're gonna be seeing in the next few years too. Could be even bigger and better than ever.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you as we get into some sports media news talk. Of course, one of our good friends of the show, Danny Parkins, soon to be formerly on 670 The Score in Chicago. He has taken the job to host his own morning debate show on FS1, which is set to debut in the fall. We assume next month. It's September, just in time for football season. Lakina, he's worked here in Chicago for the last 7.5 years. Of course, he replaced the now retired Terry Boers back in 2017. We actually had a chance to interview him down at the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, now Illinois Media School, IMS, which is called now. But he was a gracious guy. He was setting foot in this market, working professionally for the first time back in his hometown. Of course, he had him and Matt Spiegel has the number 4 overall show in Chicago in the market in their afternoon time slot. Of course, the number 1 sports radio show in the market, being out Wild and Sibley in its time slot. So I know the speculation has begun, Lakina,
already. Yep.
We'll start it here too. I just want to put out this disclaimer. I don't know anything or anybody, and it's just talking straight out of our what's. But who's going to replace Danny Parkins in the afternoon time slot? Will Matt Spiegel stay there, which I assume that he will. But assuming that afternoon show will still be in that same format, who's going to replace Danny Parkins? I know Mark Grody's name, another good friend of the show. His name has been brought up. I know he covers the Bears for 670 The Score full time. Could it be our guy Marshall Harris? Him and Grody filled in for Mully and Hall on the show, morning show this morning. Yeah, and they did sound great. Will it be Marshall Harris? Me personally, I wish it is him. I know some people said Jason Goff. I know that he was under the last regime, but he got the unfair treatment the last time he was brought back to that station. So Is Mitch Rosen and his team is going to have an interesting search on their hands to find Daniel Parkinson's replacement.
I've heard some people say that maybe I know our buddy Russ Dorsey kind of started this from MLB Network and such, but I know he said that maybe perhaps they could just have Golf and Lawrence Holmes. I don't think they're going to want to break up that tandem of Bernstein and Holmes. That actually does very well for them in that time slot, so I don't see them messing around with that. So I don't think that's going to happen. Oh, well, of course, Acacia, our other good friend, Miss Layla Rahimi, of course, also from NBC Chicago, their sports anchor and reporter there. But I don't see them doing that. Like I said, I think Grody and Harris, that might, I kind of like that idea. They sounded great earlier this morning. Could they? I know some people say, I know like a couple people say, well, let's watch you bring back Dan McNeil. I don't think they're going to do that because
no.
Yeah, because I think he burned his bridges the last time they were there, and it didn't do well when he was there in that slot. So for business-wise, especially, I don't see them doing that. So, Mitch Rosen has a pretty interesting choices here, what he's going to want to do. So, Speaks, Speak and Parkins, they got like I said, they got it's in the top 5, like the number one sports talk show here in Chicago. But it's going to be interesting what they do here. It's going to be a little bit of some turnover here. So should be interesting to see what happens.
I'm sure they're going to have a rotation of co-hosts. I know since Matt Spiegel's been back for the last, I believe, almost 15 years now. He had Dan McNeil as his co-host, Jason Golf, of course, Parkins. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but he's been there in the middays now, afternoons, so since his second stint at the Score. And so he's going to have a new broadcasting partner. And like you said, it's going to be a challenge for Mitch Rosen and crew to find his replacement.
Yeah, I'm sure they're probably going to want to have somebody in place right after, if not before the end of the year, but after the first of the year. So I mean, look, I think I would look. We'll see. It's gonna be interesting though. So we'll see what happens. But look, congrats to Parkins. He deserves his opportunity, and he's one of the best out there. So we'll see how he does over FS1.
Yeah, and also too, one more name that I saw throughout social media throughout the last few hours. Our another friend of the show, Miss Alyssa Bergamini. I know she does the pre and post game for the Bulls on 6-7 to Score. I know she does some betting shows on the BetQL network as well. Of course, she's still the in-game host for the White Sox, for the Chicago White Sox. So let's see if they can give her a fair shot. I know she did some fill-in work on the evening shows with our guy Mark Grody as well. So maybe they'll give her a shot. Who knows?
And I know she and Mark are both doing like some sports over the WBBM News Radio Network too. So there might be a little bit of a conflict there. So we'll see. But I mean, look, it's going to be interesting to see what Mitch Rosen does. Like I said, I'm sure he's going to want to have something in place, if not before the end of the year, but by the end of the year, I'm sure he wants to kind of take his time and see if everyone can mesh well and it doesn't kind of mess around with the chemistry. With Spiegel already has good chemistry with him. And a lot of those guys that Phil did with Spiegel, so they do have kind of like a starting line there. So it should be interesting. But like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens.
And another name, he was a guest on Holmes and Bernstein earlier today. Anthony Herron. Could it be him and Matt Spiegel?
He does really great work. I think
it's a long shot, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
Yeah, he does really great work. I think he has hosted some shows in primetime the last couple of weeks. So and also over the weekends as well. So he is very seasoned and he's actually pretty smart. So I think this is it might be another name that might be flow around there. So like I said, I'm sure it's gonna want to make sure that talking about Mitch Rosen, make sure that he speaks West as well with whoever they partner him with. So it's gonna be interesting to see what he does. So we're gonna be seeing a kind of a rotating co-host for the next maybe month or two.
And let me throw this out there before we move on. Do you think that he'll go outside the market to replace Danny Parkins? Because technically, Danny Parkins was working in Kansas City before he worked at the Score, but he was born and raised in Chicago. He was familiar with the Chicago market. Plus, people forget too, he did a couple of stints at ESPN 1000 as a fill-in host of the couple of years before then when he was in Kansas City. So he had a leg up on this market as well. So do you think that Mitch will go outside the Chicago market to fill his replacement with Chicago ties?
I don't know if he wants to take that chance. I think he wants to try to stay within the family. If not, maybe somebody in the Chicago sports media realm. I don't know if he wants to go the route of perhaps me. Well, like I said, the only reason why Danny kind of stood out was because he is from Chicago, born and raised. He worked here in this market for a few years, so I can't really see him going outside of that. Maybe, like I said, outside in there's going to be a Chicago media landscape, especially with the upheaval going on with with that new sports network coming up. So there might be some people there that might take a go at it here. So we'll see.
All right, you're listening to Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports, the Monday edition. Say Lakina here with you. Anything else that you want to get off your chest before we do our abbreviated edition of Old School TV Monday?
No, I want to say a little bit. Let's spend some time with Old School TV before we close out.
All right. If you're in your mid to late 30s, and if you're our age and older, I know MTV celebrated its 43rd anniversary a couple of weeks ago. And around the mid to late 2000s, in my opinion, it was a great time to watch MTV. They had great shows outside of music. I think this was the last great era for that. Of course, remember Remote Control, which we'll do down the road. And we did Club MTV a couple of years ago. And so, and we'll do other shows that they had on that network down the road. But this one was very underrated, but very, for the lack of a better term, cute. In a sense, it was. Remember this TV show? Since it's now back to school time for many kids. Remember this show? I'm saluting it today. It was called Room Raiders.
Yes, I remember that. That kind of, if you think about it, that kind of started that. I don't want to say it started that home decorating trip, but it kind of was one of those days where they would come into your I think it was like a dorm room, or if you're in high school, they come in and they do some really cool stuff with your room. So yeah, I remember I didn't see all the episodes, but I did see a few, and it was actually really cool. So kind of So yeah, the Room Raiders was actually it was kind of like Trading Spaces and all those other like home improvement shows on HGTV that would come on down the line, kind of like for younger people.
Yeah, the premise of the show was 3 men or 3 women had their rooms inspected or raided by another single man or woman. The raider does not meet or see any of the 3 singles. By the end of the episode, the raider chooses to go on a date with one of them based on the contents of their rooms. The 3 contestants watch in common while sitting in a van as their rooms are inspected. After the raider has finished with each of the rooms, the 3 contestants then raid the raider's room. Finally, the raider confronts the 3 contestants and makes his or her choice. Yeah,
it was kind of like Singled Out meets, I guess. I guess like Trading Spaces.
We'll do that show too down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like the same concept. I don't know if any of those folks stay together. I doubt they did, but yeah, I mean, it was actually pretty funny. When you saw like everyone kind of making fun, like because you always want to kind of like see like how messy they are and what kind of stuff they use. So it was always kind of weird when the guy would go through the ladies stuff, which is a little bit weird. That was a little bit weird, though. I will say that.
Yeah, but that was MTV for you, especially back then. It was on for 8 seasons, and from 2003 until May of 2009. They had Room Raiders 2, Room Raiders Miami, Hotlanta, California, Texas, Arizona, and Room Raiders 2.0. The very first episode was filmed at Tulane University and featured Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey to promote the program. It was branded as Dorm Raiders, although the rest of the season used the branding Room Raiders.
Yeah, because they did like apartments and stuff like that. So that's why, yeah. Because I think some colleges, weren't too too keen on the room. That's why they kind of went outside of the college. But yeah, I guess I only saw a few episodes. But yeah, I thought it was a funny concept. It was very MTV, but I can see why. But I can see why it became very popular.
And I think we'll do this show down the road as well. Remember the other dating show, Next?
Yes, I remember that. Yep.
As the kids would say, it was very savage. I'll leave it at that.
Oh yeah, it was kind of the way they folks turned out. Yeah, it was actually pretty. Yeah. So we'll leave it there. But yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that kind of started the trend of. It was kind of in the middle of the trend with all those Room Raiders. So all the day shows that they had. Of course, they had to put their own spin on it, especially. But like I said, they kind of went outside the college realm. Like I said, some of the colleges were not very keen on some of their dorm rooms being showcased. But yeah, it was actually pretty interesting to kind of like see like people going through their stuff. But yeah, I'm sure it was probably weird though, nonetheless.
And creepy at times. But like I said, that was MTV for you back in those days. So For this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the MTV's reality/dating show Room Raiders. Lakina, take us home.
Y'all thought The Bachelor was weird and the Bachelorette franchise was weird. Yeah, check out the episode of Room Raiders. A lot of those are on YouTube. Check those episodes out. You can follow by Katie McKee on the Twitter X and Kids Go Get on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. If you get the Roku TV app, whatever device you got, just catch Sports Zone Chicago, type in Sports Zone Chicago and on the app. You can catch replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cousin, a whole lot more. Of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere are the replays of our shows on Roku TV.
And we will provide.
All right, folks, enjoy the baseball. Enjoy the very nice weather we have here. And I think most of the country as well is enjoying some good weather as well as we kind of recover from the Olympics as they start to get back to normal. Of course, the WNBA, they'll be back going, I believe, later this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of going back to normal there. As well, also give a shout out to Mallory Swanson, who helped the U.S. Women win gold. Their first goal, I think, in the last 3 Olympics.
Fox TV put up the wrong picture last Saturday during the Cubs Sox broadcast. Shame on them.
Shout out to Sophia Smith, though. She's a big part of that team as well. Of course, Evan Hayes has been doing great things with that squad already. She's only been there like 2 or 3 months. You can tell that they're having a lot more fun now. So that might be a good thing for the rest of the world. But also shout out to Alyssa Nair too, also from the Chicago Red Stars, along with Miss Mallory Swanson, who had a big save late to kind of keep Brazil at bay. But nice. Want to give a shout out to them as well. But so for Sid, I'm Lakina. Enjoy all the baseball this weekend. This is this week coming up. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Dot Bears, holla!